All right, y'all, welcome to the show. I have a big, beefy, fat, juicy, leaky show for you today. I don't know why I added leaky, but we're going to go with leaky. All right, so what are we going to talk about? Well, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about Biden gave a speech a couple days back. Him and Trump visited the border at the same day, and the thing Biden said in the speech, whoo, it is really eyebrow-raising, to say the least. Then we'll get to John Fetterman is continuing his absolute psychological meltdown and targeting Rashida Tlaib. I can't wait to explain over what. We have some mutiny among seasoned CNN hosts. The other day, we talked about Fareed Zakaria coming out against Biden and how much of a cuck he's been towards Netanyahu. Now we have Christiane Amanpour, who is also kind of doing the same thing. And she sees the pro-Israel double standard that they have at CNN, and she's not okay with it. And then later on in the show, we'll get to Oregon is reversing their drug decriminalization. That hurts. That hurts. And there's a new scandal over trans people in sports. It's now impacted a pool tournament. Not pool as in swimming, pool as in like billiards. So, wait, I'll give you the details of that one. That one's a doozy. All right, so let's go ahead and dive into it. So, Biden and Trump were both at the border on the same day. And here we have an article from Mediaite, and I have a little clip to show you. Biden calls on Trump to stop playing politics and insist Congress pass a bipartisan border bill. Quote, "We can do it together." So let's play his commentary in its full context, and then we'll react to it.
I understand my predecessor's legal past today. So here's what I would say to Mr. Trump. Instead of playing politics with this issue, instead of telling members of Congress to block this legislation, join me, or I'll join you, in telling the Congress to pass this bipartisan border security bill. We can do it together. You know and I know. It's the toughest, most efficient, most effective border security bill this country has ever seen. So instead of playing politics with the issue, why don't we just get together and get it done?
I mean, I don't see any other way of interpreting that. He's clearly asking to work with Donald Trump. He wants to work with Donald Trump. He wants, in a bipartisan fashion, to get together, and they go out there and go, yay, border security bill. Now, by the way, everybody needs to understand what's in this border security bill, because what's in it is kind of devastating. It is like 98% right-wing ideas. Because remember, the original idea with this bill was the Democrats want funding for Ukraine and Taiwan. Both parties want funding for Israel, and Republicans really wanted a new border crackdown, more funding for the border to close the border down. And so basically the Democrats said to the Republicans, listen, we'll give you whatever you want on the border. And then in return, you just have to vote for the Ukraine and Taiwan aid as part of that. And then we both want funding for Israel because we're both totally bought by the Israel lobby. So that's going to be the bill. It used to be in the past, a border bill would be like, okay, you need to protect the dreamers, and you need a path to citizenship for the millions of people who've already been here for an extended period of time. This time, the Democrats were like, forget our own position on the border. Forget the dreamers. Forget the path to citizenship for people who've been here for a while. Forget that. We'll give you whatever you want on the border. All you have to do is we'll throw in there the Ukraine funding and the Taiwan funding, and boom, we're good. Let's make a deal. So you had like James Lankford, the Republican senator from, I believe, Wyoming. Is it Wyoming or Oklahoma? Correct me if I'm wrong in the comment section below. He came out and he was like, this is a great bill. Now, why does he say it's a great bill? Because it is a great bill from a Republican perspective. It's a massive, border bill which cracks down on immigration. Now, I'm 100% against the bill. Why? Because part of the bill is to totally remove even the theoretical possibility of having due process. After a certain number of crossings, they're just like, forget it. Shut it down. There is no due process anymore. We're done here. Well, that's not supposed to be debatable. The whole thing of due process is it's supposed to be ironclad. So you're supposed to give a hearing to somebody who comes in and says, I'm a refugee, I'm escaping drug cartel violence or whatever. You're supposed to adjudicate that. And if it's untrue, you can maybe deport. But if it's true, then you react accordingly and you have a path into this country, right? That's what the whole idea of asylum is. But they say, no, forget asylum. We're just going to totally crack down. So this was like a border bill that came from a Trumpian vision of the world. So Biden does a Trump bill. The Republicans block it because they want it to be more extreme and they wanted more money for Israel and they wanted a bigger border crackdown. And now Biden's out there going, sir, please, would you please work with me in a bipartisan fashion? We can get together and we can get this done. Now, okay, that all would be bad enough on its own, right? Just like basically agreeing to the framing that the conservatives are 100% right on the border in every way, shape, and form. We need more militarization, more funding, a bigger crackdown. So you're conceding up front that they're right in their framing of this. That's a problem alone. But then we also get this. So a couple days later, Biden gives an interview to The New Yorker. This is from that piece. Back in the Oval Office where winter sun shone through the glass doors, I asked Biden if it was possible for him to reach voters who had those beliefs, talking about people who disagree with the president on Gaza, for example, the people who are now looking like they won't vote for him in November because they don't agree with him. Biden treated the question as a provocation. Quote, well, first of all, remember in 2020, you guys told me how I wasn't going to win. And then you told me in 2022 how it was going to be this red wave. He flashed a tense smile. Quote, and I thought there wasn't going to be any red wave. And in 2023, you told me we're going to get our ass kicked again. And we won every contested race out there. He let that sink in for an instant and said, in 2024, I think you're going to see the same. Now, he goes on to say, you guys are not treating the massive danger of Donald Trump correctly. You're numb to his extremism and his dictatorial instincts and his authoritarianism. Joe, you can't on the one hand go out there and say, I want to work with you. Let's get this bipartisan. Let's hold hands. We agree. Let's agree together. You can't do that one day and the next day berate the media and say, you guys aren't treating Trump as the danger that he really is. You were just saying you wanted to work with him 2.5 seconds ago. What's wrong with you? Okay, look, they have no idea what they're doing. They have no idea what they're doing. This campaign is embarrassing. And by the way, this quote I read you here, how scary is that? That basically Biden and all of his staffers look at the polls and they're like, fake. That is literally a Trump response. All the polls are fake all the time. They're like, no, you guys don't understand. Fake. We have full confidence, full faith in our decision making. And they swat aside the 100,000 uncommitted votes in Michigan, the polls that show over 70%, some over 80% of Democrats want a ceasefire. Majority of the country wants a ceasefire. Even a majority of Republicans want a ceasefire. Swat all that aside. And then constantly go back and forth between bipartisanship is wonderful. Let's hold hands and sing Kumbaya with Trump. Let's work together to get his border bill done. You go from that to he's a tyrant, he's a dictator, he's got authoritarian instincts, he's extreme, and you guys, he's dangerous. The media needs to call him out as such. How about you call him out as such? How about you don't do an embarrassing speech where you get out there in front of the Border Patrol and say, Don, let's do your ideas at the border. We can do it together. This is pathetic, man. This is pathetic. And then, meanwhile, by the way, all the headlines after Biden gave this speech, Biden calls to work with Trump in bipartisan fashion. Biden asks Trump to work with him. Okay, you can't, on the one hand, normalize him. And in fact, give into his framing and say he's right on the border on the one hand. And then on the other hand, say he's dangerous and he's beyond the pale and the media is doing such a bad job of calling it as it is. Even Joe Biden and his little minion lackeys around him should be able to see that glaring contradiction. But they don't. And here we are. And then you sit there and you wonder, well, Jesus Christ, what's going on here, man? What's this? A poll that shows Trump has his biggest lead since 2015. 5-point lead nationally. Even in the average, Trump is up 2.3 percentage points. Look at this, 2.3. Trump is up. They don't have a consistent message. They don't have a strategy. They're just totally going by instinct and flopping around like a fish fresh out of water. That's what we're witnessing. This should terrify you. All this should terrify you. Let's give them everything they want on the border. Let me beg him to work with him for his ideas in a bipartisan fashion. Normalize him, and then in the next breath say, this guy's a tyrant and he's an authoritarian, and how dare you guys not do a better job covering him as such. How about you talk about him as such? How about you campaign? If he has the ability. We all know his mind isn't there much anymore, but wake up, y'all. Wake up. This is getting ugly. Hey, y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop, and watch that video on screen right now. You know you want to.